Welcome. Welcome. Happy Friday. First, special thanks to all our new subscribers. And also, I know this week was Valentine's Day or Valentine's Week. I hope you all kind of had a good Valentine's Day. But once again, thanks to all our new subscribers. Welcome to Let's Talk Ed with Professor Chris. We're getting great feedback from this podcast. I'm very, very excited. I kind of see where this podcast is going. There are millions of college students, so we need to start sharing and then just start pushing it out there so we can get all our students to subscribe. I also, by the way, will be doing kind of a quick announcement is this podcast is found out both parents and students are watching. So I will keep that in mind as I make some of the points here, especially of today's topic, since it actually involves both parents and students. Today, what I'm going to do, if you remember from the last episode, I touched on top 10, what AI says college students' concerns, and that's how we came up with the financial burden topic. The second one on AI's list is academic pressure. It happens to be my top or second top list as well. So today we're going to be focusing on academic pressure. Let me touch on something very quickly from the last episode when I did a financial burden. Actually, Mr. David, my camera guy here, who I'm so fortunate to have helping me, we discussed this behind the scenes after the last episodes in terms of how to save money. And I forgot to mention, I've always told students, don't move out of your parents' house if they're not kicking you out. I know sometimes we think our parents don't want us in the house, they're kicking us out, but I'm here to tell you that is not the case. You move out of your parents' house, and what do they say? They're calling you constantly. Where are you? What did you eat? What are you doing? Where are you going? What time is class? Did you shower today? Are you eating well? Right? So that is a clear indication that they obviously did not want you out of the house, because these are questions they will not be asking you if you are with them. I get it when you graduate and you want to go on your own. Yes, but no parent is ready or is willing to kick anybody else. So again, very, very, very good point in terms of saving money, because apartments are very expensive these days. So if your parents are not kicking you out, please do not move out and save some money, not to mention some good food if you are with your parents. All right, so that was from an addition to a topic from the last episode. Today, we're talking about academic pressure. Our topic today is navigating academic pressure, thriving in college. A very quick overview. Why is this on my top 2 list right after financial burden? I could go way back, 20, 25 plus years ago, as a student, as an instructor, as an advisor, as a mentor, as a director, as a department head, as a dean. I could go back and tell you that academic pressure is real. Okay, don't even get me going on academic pressure in grad school. That's a whole different story. Let's just focus on undergraduate academic pressure. It is real, so I'm here today to kind of help you go through it. I will, of course, be sharing some stories related to academic pressure, but in a nutshell, the goal to address this topic is so, one, you're healthy, okay, because we tend to forget academic pressure is what eventually builds stress, okay? I've had my students, really, really young students, complain about backaches, and I go, you should not be complaining about backaches, but it all comes from build-up pressure that you should not be experiencing. No one should, by the way, in your college experience. So let's get right to it. If you pick up any dictionary, or if you ask me what a definition for academic pressure is, I have my own definition. the definition you're probably going to find is academic pressure usually refers to the stress and demands placed on individuals within an educational environment. Typically, is due to expectations, challenges, responsibilities, and all associated with academic pursuits. So as I read through this here, you're thinking expectations, I get that. Challenges, where is it coming from? Responsibilities, where does that come from? Expectations, believe it or not, could be from parents and teachers. And as I mentioned, this podcast, I'm actually going to address the parents as well as the students as I go through some of these points here. Now, some of these pressures, okay, can also trigger, or there are different components that usually triggers academic pressure, and we'll touch on those as well. All right, so this is where, did I use my drum today? I think I did. Okay, I did use my drum. Sorry, I digressed a little bit. I'm going to go very slow as I talk about this here because some of these stories, again, watchers discretion advised. I will be sharing some real, and I might be a little bit graphic about some of the stories I'm about to share, but you need to hear it. Okay. So there are three areas when it comes to the effect of academic pressure. Mental health, right? These days, everybody's talking about mental health, and then we have physical health consequences, and we have the impact of social life and relationships. Okay. So when we take the very first one, mental health, I always remind students that in my case, and again, this is not too far back, we're still talking 20 years back, mental health wasn't something that we discussed. Okay. In my days, people would say, why is he so angry? Why is she so angry? Why is she so sad? Why is he so sad? Right? Give them some time. Give them some space. That was it. Nobody was saying, go talk to somebody. Maybe you need to do this here. In my college, actually, there were what we call practitioners or house mom and house dads that hopefully if you have one of those, people will say, hey, so-and-so wasn't too happy today, go talk to them. Case in point, nobody was really talking about mental health, which led to anxiety and stresses and sometimes depression and burnout. One of the stories that I would like to share today was from one of my students. Again, as I already mentioned, watchers discretion advice. I was actually doing a presentation where I told the whole class, I said, ladies and gentlemen, you're going through college. If you're going through any challenges, please find somebody to talk to. So this was a conversation. I usually have these conversations all the time because I will see students stress over different things, right? Of course, the academic was the very first one. I'm not doing well in my class. I'm failing my class. You see stresses all over the place. So I had this student who came to my office and said, Professor Chris, I really need to talk to you. One of the stories you shared in the class actually related to me, and it's something I've been dealing with. And she proceeded to tell me that she, at one point, cut her wrist. I've written about this, by the way, in my bi-weekly Boost article called The Boost. And she was confided in me because she said, fortunately for her, she didn't drown because her mom came back from work and saw her there in a pool of blood in the bathtub and was able to immediately call 911 to save her life. Why was she sharing the story with me? Because she said, Professor Chris, I appreciate how you take the time to talk to our students, and I feel like I could talk to you because every now and then I feel like I'm going into that mode or stage again. So I share this story with you because one of the points I'm going to highlight when I do my top 10 points is that you do need to talk to someone so you don't get to that point. Another very disturbing story, again, was from my institution, my former institution. This has to do with my third point here on the effects of academic pressure, and has to do with the impact of social life and relationships. We hear the term used very loosely. Oh, he's a loner, she's a loner, doesn't talk to anyone, is by themselves. Usually, and I've always said, nobody wants to be a loner. It takes certain pressures for people to get to that point of isolation where they feel like, I don't need anyone, I don't need to talk to anyone. Excuse me. In this case, we had, quote unquote, a loner who, unfortunately, ended up taking his own life, but the goal or the idea was that he was going to go out, shoot up the place, probably kill a few people before taking his own life. Fortunately, unfortunately, again, this is a very hard incident. Don't want to see anyone in that situation, but was not able to make it out before a friend called 911, and before they got there, he took his own life. There was a big study after this incident of who this person was, and everyone concluded that this person was a loner. It happens. You should not ever go through college with so much academic pressure that it gets to you to the point that you feel like you need to isolate yourself, and also to the point that you feel like this is it. I'm better off not being here. Okay. All right. These are the effects. And again, maybe worst case scenario, these are the effects of academic pressure. The impact on social lives and relationships, as already mentioned, sometimes could also strain our connections with our friends and family. When you're isolated, you don't want to do anything with any of those. And I will also touch on that because the expectations sometimes we get from our friends and family could also put us in places we really don't want to be. Okay. All right, let's get our energy back a little bit. But I felt like this story is too, and I have many more to share. But for the sake of time, I hope these two stories makes the point and makes the case of the effect of academic pressures. As usual, I'm going to give you my top 10 strategies on how to manage academic pressure. And by the way, students have said they do actually like my top 10s. So I will continue following that strategy. And also, please stay tuned because I've got a lot of suggestions on different ways to take this podcast. So definitely stay tuned. I'm hoping at some point I will invite some of my old or past students, now doing very well, have their own working, have married, have kids, and I think it's great because I do want you all to kind of see the connection I actually make with some of my students. 10 plus years still in touch with my students. All right, let's get right to my top 10 ways to reduce academic pressure. Number 1. You probably have heard me repeat this over and over again, so I'm going to keep it short this time. But number 1 is time management. Why and how does time management reduce academic pressure? Because on your schedule, which I always encourage and I get it, it's so difficult to stick to a schedule. But on that schedule, hopefully you have academics, if you're working, and your social, right? Time management is very important because one of the reasons students feel like they are so much under pressure is not knowing when to do what and how. So we're just going through the motions of doing homework. There's nowhere where we plan any time to study for the classes that we're taking when it comes to exams. So when you have exams back to back, guess what? You're all over the place, you're pulling your hair out and not sure what to do, and that can build pressure. So please do have a schedule that you can follow, and hence always talking about time management. Number 2, building a support system. I think I've also already touched on this here. The story that I just shared kind of really connects to this point. Building a support system is great because you don't want to go it alone. The greatest people of all time, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, didn't even go through carpentry college by himself. And I'm not trying to be funny. We cannot go through college without having or building a support system. It could be an advisor, it could be a mentor, it could be a friend that you trust, but there's always got to be somebody that you could share with, that you could talk to while you are in college. So please, please, please build a support system. Number 3, developing healthy coping mechanisms. What do I mean by that? Let me just start with take a break. Steady work. I get it. I'll be the first person to say, study hard, focus on your school, focus on your books. But I'll also be the one to tell you, take a break, go take a walk, just relax. If you want to do yoga, if you want to exercise, you want to do some stretching, it is needed. So find a healthy mechanism or something that you can cope with, okay? You have to have one of those. Number 4, setting realistic expectations. Let me repeat that again. Setting realistic expectations. Parents, I start with parents. Our kids don't need to prove anything to us. I have shared the same sentiments with parents, by the way, either through phone calls or either through emails. Can I please have a conversation with you? Just because once upon a time we want to be the lawyers, we want to be the doctors, we want to be the engineers, we want to fly planes, and somehow we were not able to make it. But fortunately for us, we're actually able to help our kids do something great. But they don't have to be what we aspired to be before. I say that because to my students, you don't have to feel you need to prove anything to anyone. Be realistic. What can you do? But I've also have to mention, you're not going through college to graduate to set up a lemonade stand, right? That is you not applying your qualities or your capabilities as well. So when I say this, students get very excited, like, oh yeah, that means I could do whatever I could do. Yes, I'm saying do whatever you want to do, but that comes with the time and effort you're putting into college. Don't settle either, okay? Number 5, seeking help and resources. When I was an undergrad, more so, my friends were actually graduate school students. They happened to be also my TAs, and I chased them down. Some of whom, by the way, are good friends of mine today in engineering, but when I say I was chasing them down, they were my friends. Right after class, I knew where they were in the labs, and I would go there, find them, get the help that I need to get through my work. Tutoring centers, the libraries, please seek help and know where your resources are. Number 5, seeking help and resources, okay? Know your instructor's office hours. Every single point that I'm going through right now is to make your life easy and reduce academic pressure. Trust me. Number 6, let's get through this very quickly. Talk to the OGs. So this is interesting because recently my son used the term OG, and I said, what do you know about OG? OG, in my case, yes, old school, right, meant someone that has gone through the trenches, knows, right, it's old school, knows how things work. This is, my son tells me, it means original. And I said, I hope Ice-T has copyrighted OG, and those of you who know Ice-T back in that day, right, that was it. But again, I think OG is, again, copyrighted by Ice-T. Sorry to digress, but talk to the OGs. Talk to the people who've been there and done that, right? Because they will know what it takes to get through it. So in terms of your instructors, you always want somebody outside, okay, that you could talk to. Number 7, prioritize. Academics, listen very carefully. When I say prioritize, number 1 is academics, because if it wasn't for academics, you wouldn't be there to begin with. Maybe your work. And then I have health and social. Health, of course, maybe precedes everything, but if you're in good health, then academics, work, health, and the social. I've also had some of my student athletes always tell me, well, Professor Chris, I'm here, because I'm going to make it into the pros. And I said, please do me a favor. Still remember why you're here. As academics, get some foundation academics. So I'm not saying you're not going to make it through the pros, but when the percentages are so low, hopefully you're getting through college with some degree and you will be set just in case you don't have a plan B or your second option. So prioritize, okay? Number 8, effective communication. What do I mean by effective communication? I've told students to stop talking. We talk too much. We talk way too much and nobody listens. Speak. Break things down. Speak, please. Break things down according to how you want. Smaller chunks, okay? That is what I mean by effective communication. You have to know what you want, and you have to know how best to break it down so people understand what you're saying. Speak. Stop talking. That is effective communication. If you are able to do that, things don't build up, which will eventually lead to academic pressures. Number 9, set boundaries. Set boundaries. One of the reasons we're not able to stick to our schedule or time management is because we actually don't have boundaries. So we cannot stick to our schedule. We stick to our boundaries, and that way the people around us understand and respect what our boundaries are. It is okay to say no sometimes when your friends are saying, let's go out and do this. It's okay to say, you know what, I have some homework to do. Maybe Friday evening will be a good time. You have to learn how to set boundaries. If you have roommates who bring their friends around when you're trying to do work, you have to make sure you set those boundaries. If you're at home, it is okay to tell your parents very nicely that this is the time I do work, this is the time that I can help around the house. It's okay. You have to set boundaries. And last but not the least, number 10 is self-care. I did an episode here with Dr. Norman Collins, and we talked about self-care, and he went to all the details on self-care. The number 1 way, even though it's number 10 on my list, is making sure you're taking care of yourself. You love yourself. You have to love yourself first. If you are in college and you all tell me you are adults and your parents cannot tell you what to do, okay. That also means you should be able to tell your friends what you want to do and what you don't want to do. You should not in any way fall under peer pressure. If you are able to tell your parents that you're grown, no student, no friend of yours at college should tell you what to do. You don't love yourself if your friends are telling you things to do that's going to get you in trouble. That is not loving yourself. You have to take care of yourself. You know yourself. Make smart and wise decisions. And that is it for me today. So, I know I kind of went on a little bit again, but please, 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 as I go through all this podcast, as I go through all this episode, I'll be sharing some of the stories here that I'm so fortunate enough to have my students who trust me, confide in me, share with me even till today. So I will do my best to keep sharing to help you. If you're able to go through this top 10, as always, as I've said, you are going to get through college in the best possible way you can. Okay? So, in my closing, I think I'm going to use this for all my closing these days, as I used before. I said, don't drink beer, right? Don't drink beer, but live beer. If you listen to my previous episode, you know exactly what my beer is. So, living beer means balance, exercise, eat well, rest, and relax. And if you want to sneak some prayers in there, by all means, please do so. Okay? All right. So upon demand or upon special request, I'm supposed to do an episode of whether or not you're supposed to date while you're in college. And I've tried to avoid that topic for quite some time now, but we'll see. Maybe next episode I will tackle it. We'll see where I am at that point. But anyway, much, much love to all of you. We're almost halfway through the semester. Don't drink beer, live beer. Okay, stay tuned. Keep subscribing. Get your friends to subscribe. And I will see you on the next episode. You take care.